Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of Unscripted and Unstoppable. I am your host, Laureen Quick. If you are joining us for the first time, this podcast is dedicated to helping women navigate the transitions of midlife with greater clarity, courage, and confidence. Together, we explore the challenges, the opportunities, and the quiet transformations, and sometimes not so quiet transformations that shape the second half of life. We look at how we can move through those experiences with intention rather than simply reacting to whatever comes our way. Today, we are going to be talking about something that touches every woman, yet not very many of us truly understand it: menopause. Most of us expect hot flashes or changes in our monthly cycles, but the reality is that menopause affects nearly every system in the body. It can influence our energy, sleep, cardiovascular health, strength, emotions, and so much more. For many women, these changes begin long before we realize what is actually happening to our bodies and our lives. My guest today is Stephanie Mitchell. She is the founder of the ChangeHER Community, where she helps women navigate midlife with greater health, energy, resilience, and confidence. Stephanie is a nationally certified personal trainer, menopause coach, meditation instructor, and a wellness coach with more than 30 years of experience in the field of health and wellness. Through her personal training, her Sunday suppers, the Change Her podcast, and her growing community of women, Stephanie is on a mission to help women stop putting themselves last and start investing in themselves. As Stephanie says, what we do for our bodies and our minds today becomes the compound interest for the life that we want to live tomorrow. Whether you are approaching menopause, navigating perimenopause, living through menopause now, or simply want to understand your body more deeply, I think that you will find this conversation both enlightening and encouraging. Stephanie, I am so glad you're here. I'm just going to dive right in with my first question and turn it
Thank
over
you.
to you.
Awesome.
Most women think menopause means hot flashes and the end of their
Mhm,
periods. What
mhm.
is the bigger story that we're not really being told?
One thing that I think is really important to understand, by the way, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to get to have this conversation with you. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. When
Delighted.
it comes, yeah, it's so fun. Um, so, menopause, it is so much more. Like you said, a lot of people think of it as hot flashes. We put on the meno belly. We, might have brain fog. Those are kind of the most common symptoms. What's really important for women to understand is that the menopause transition, obviously starting with perimenopause, which starts years before we actually get into menopause. And before we go into that, is it okay if I just share what menopause is and perimenopause?
Please do. Please do.
Okay, okay.
We're going to
Just in
learn.
case, because I know that there's a lot of people who are still learning. Um, and there should be clarity around this, but perimenopause are the years leading up to menopause, and you don't necessarily know you're in it. A lot of times you realize you've been in perimenopause and it's kind of like a hindsight thing. So you've been experiencing things, things are changing, you're not really sure what's happening, your sleep changes, you're putting on a little bit of weight maybe despite doing the same exercise routine, despite not having changed your diet. Just little, you notice you're getting a little moody, or you're not reacting the same way to things that you once did. If you might have been a little bit more chill, and things are all of a sudden really impacting you in a different way. And you don't often realize you're in perimenopause. Um, and then what happens is your period stops one day. And then a year later, a year anniversary after that last menstrual cycle, is when you're in menopause. And menopause is one day. It's the anniversary of your last cycle. Then you're postmenopausal. And that's where we stay for the rest of the time, you know? So that's the perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. And that's and the perimenopause years can last 2 years to 10 years. You could be perimenopausal soon after, women are having babies later. So you could have the hormonal changes of having children and then start easing your way into perimenopause. And, that just makes for like this really long, odd time, like what's happening to my body. So, but during that perimenopausal transition, there's a lot of things happening. Estrogen is declining, progesterone is declining. And for a while, these hormones have gone and been a beautiful cycle. They've had this nice little wave effect. And then all of a sudden, the hormones start to shift. And they look like, if you looked at like a stock market graph when it's volatile, that's what the hormones start to do after, once you're in the perimenopausal years. It's just like up and down. And like, it just looks like it's chaos. And that's why the body is going through all these changes, is because the hormones are changing. And what's important to know is that the hormones, estrogen impacts every system of the body, our endocrine system, cardiovascular system, all of it. So yes, we talk about brain fog. Yes, we talk about gaining a little bit of weight. We talk about the hot flashes. But one thing that's really important to know that I would want your listeners to understand, big picture, is that cardiovascular health can be impacted by an estrogen decline. And heart disease is the number one killer of women. Heart disease beats out all cancers combined. So, and why I find this really important to share, if it's okay, I want to share like a personal story. In 2018, I went to my primary care physician. I wasn't feeling great, and I went in there, and I'm still having my cycle at this time, okay? But it was starting to become irregular. It was very heavy. It would be short, but like mighty, if you will. Like it was very heavy, like to the point where, I was really terrified of what was happening. Anyway, I go to her, and this is in October of 2018. And she's like, hey, your blood pressure's high. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm 2 weeks out from a marathon. Like, what do you mean my blood pressure's high? I'm a personal trainer. I work out every day. I'm an endurance athlete. No way. No. And I chose, and then then I had like a little bit of a mental breakdown in her office. I cried. I don't know why, for about 45 minutes, and she couldn't get me to stop crying. I just kind of lost it. And I was on medication at the time. But it turns out like just things were feeling very overwhelming for me. So that's 2018. Fast forward, over the years between 2018 and 2023, my blood pressure continued to increase, and I kept ignoring it. And I was like, what on earth is happening? And I go to a doctor, and actually I go to give blood, and my blood pressure was through the roof. They would not let me give blood. And they're like, you need to go to the ER. And I'm like, what is happening? Anyway, and I'm stubborn as heck, because I'm like, no, I'm a trainer. I'm an athlete. Stubborn as shit. Sorry.
Someone's made a mistake.
Yeah. I'm like, for 5 years, it was their machinery that was wrong, not me having high blood pressure. So anyway, I do end up going to a cardiologist. He puts me on medication. I'm devastated. And I cried to the cardiologist, and he's like, hey, this is not your fault. Like, you're doing all the things right. Mm-hmm. It's okay. So I share that. In the event there is a woman out there hearing whispers of your cholesterol's changing or your blood pressure is changing, listen to the whispers, listen to your doctors, ask the questions, and know that when the estrogen does start to decline in our bodies, it does impact our arteries, our veins, all of that. It impacts the cardiovascular system. And when our arteries and veins, they used to be a little bit more like, think of a garden hose that's brand new. You get it and you can easily just like, move it around and twist it or whatever. But then when the estrogen starts to decline, it becomes a little more rigid. So imagine a garden hose in winter when it's hard to move, right? Like it's not as malleable, for lack of a better word, as it once was. That's what starts to happen. So Um, I think that's one of the most important things is that heart disease is the number one killer of women, and women get overlooked a lot in the doctor's office. So if you're noticing your blood pressure is going up at the doctor's office, pay attention to that, ask questions. And, if your primary care isn't helping you, maybe get on a medication, then go to a cardiologist. And
I
I
think
think
that
that's just so important.
I want to agree, and I'm going to share also that this happened to me as well.
Oh,
That
wow.
I was seeing the doctor, different reasons, different things. And then one day I said to her, I noticed in the last year or so when I've been in, my blood pressure has been consistently high. It always was perfect,
Right.
always perfect, right? Just even
Yeah.
sometimes a little under. And she looked
Hmm.
back at all the charts and she's like, "Oh my God, yes, you're right. I didn't notice." And I'm like, "Well, okay, I'm noticing. So what are we going to do about it?" We went through for the next, I literally, for the next 2.5, 3 years, I've gone on this crazy up and down cycle of we've tried every medication. I've changed my lifestyle. I stopped eating red meat. I mean, I just did everything that I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
No matter
Yeah.
what we did, even with the drugs, I couldn't bring it down. I mean, we got it
Wow.
down to a manageable level, but not down to where it was 120 over
Right.
80.
Right.
And no one at any point in time said to me, "You're a menopausal, a perimenopausal, premenopausal." No one ever said any
Right.
postmenopausal, said nothing to me about this happens to women when they're going through this
Hmm.
change. Had I known that, it would have relieved so much stress.
Right.
And
Yeah.
really, it was like, what's wrong with my body? Why? I mean, am I resistant to
Right.
medication or what? And it's finally, I'm going to the doctor, and when I do the checks for my blood pressure, it's like 133 over 79. Oh, that's
Awesome.
good for me,
Yeah. It
right?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it has taken years to
Right.
stop resisting what they were telling me. It's like it
Right.
can't be. I'm physically fit. I'm active.
Right.
I eat whole food. How can this
Right.
be happening to me? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
reiterate, wow, this is just really important for us to know.
It is. It is. And, there's so many other um, things we need to pay attention to as well. We also don't metabolize sugar the way we once did. So part of the weight gain can come from, I will tell you, I was never a sugar person. All of a sudden, I have all these sugar cravings and I have the menopelly. I have put on weight. I work hard to get it off, but there's just still something like, and I can tell if I have the littlest bit of sugar, it makes me feel awful. Um, our bodies don't process alcohol. I mean, look, I'm not saying I will never say like, have a drink a day. I enjoy alcohol. I mean, like I have a drink, a couple times a week.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say like, drink red wine for your health. That will never come out of my mouth. I'm never going to say drink. But your body does not metabolize it the way that it once did. So sleep will be affected by alcohol. And I think that's another big one that people, don't realize that's changing as well as the sleep.
So when you're in this age range, so what would be the age ranges for like perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopausal in
So
general? Are we all
average age for the menopause transition, that 1 year anniversary of no period, no cycle, is 51.
okay?
You can be perimenopausal anywhere from like 2 to 8 years before that. Or, like it. And here's the thing that's really hard about menopause that people need to understand, that women need to understand. Not everybody does it the same. My experience is different than my mom's, then it's different than my grandmother's, then is different from my best friend who lives two doors up, then who's different. Sisters, identical twin sisters, are going to have a different menopausal experience. So, and women's health is not often researched enough.
Mhm.
So there is still research being done. Melinda Gates just gave a really big sum of money to some organizations doing research on women's health. And it's becoming more like menopause has only really been out there in terms of education and people starting to hear a little bit more about it since like 2023, 2024. Like that's when I started to see it. Like I learned about it. I'll go back to my story. In the 2018, when I had, my doctor was like, your blood pressure's high. And I'm like, no, I'm running a marathon in 2 weeks. Can't be. And then I had the breakdown. The next year I stopped working. I actually, because I was feeling like not right, I quit my job, which I worked for myself at the time, took a year off, and I started 2019 with a week-long silent retreat, meditation retreat. And at that retreat, to and from, I couldn't read anything while I was there, but on the way there and on the way home, I read a book by Dr. Stacy Sims called Roar. And it was for endurance athletes, which I mentioned I was at the time. And it was talking about, there was this cute little chapter on menopause and perimenopause. And it talked about our changing hormones and how we need to shift how we work out and how we train and how our body, like how we lose muscle and how everything changes. And I was like, oh, I need to start like incorporating this into my workouts and like teach women about this. So I started talking about menopause with women in 2019 and 2020 and was like, from the exercise perspective, here's what we need to do in order to combat, our bodies changing. And so that's when I started learning about it and did it for a couple of years. And then it really took off. I mean, I had nothing to do with it, but it took off with some pretty big voices out in the, on the internet, talking about it. You've got Tamsin Fadal, who wrote a book called How to Menopause. You've got Marie Claire, and there's just a lot of there's the National Menopause Foundation. There is the Menopause Society. So there's a lot of great resources out there for women who have done some research. But the Menopause Society, what I want women to know is the Menopause Society, if you go to menopause.org, that body helps train doctors, because doctors don't learn about this in med school. OBGYNs don't. They might have like a little blip, but not a lot. OBGYNs go through the Menopause Society to get trained on menopause so that they can talk about it with their patients. Mm-hmm. But they're not, as of, a couple of years ago, they weren't learning about it in med school. Maybe that's changing. I'm obviously not a doctor, so I don't know. But so I'm fortunate. I live in Washington, the Washington, D.C. area, and we have some great doctors around here. But it's really important for women to find a doctor who will listen to them and who will understand what they're going through. And a lot of times women get written off as like, oh, this is just aging. What I would want women to know is, yes, we're aging and our bodies are changing, but there's hope for you. I want you to know there are things you can do. Partner with your doctor. If your doctor's not working with you, you got to find a new doctor.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. I think you have to become your own advocate for your health and well-being.
Absolutely. You cannot back down.
And cannot back down. I was thinking when I was younger, even still today, a lot about menopause that we talk about, they're just jokes. Make a lot of jokes. Usually it's men making jokes about women going through menopause.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really is not something that we have conversations around. My mother, she never talked about it with me. I have no idea what her experience was because she never mentioned it, which is amazing to me. But on the other hand, I never talked with my daughters about it either. They had things going on at the time that was their life. They were dealing with their stuff. So conversations like this need to start happening.
Yeah.
And we need to be ready for when we have these experiences and we're not being listened to.
Right.
Okay, well, either you need to listen or I need to move on to someone who will listen. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's so important. And it's so important. And it's challenging and it's hard because you feel lost. And I remember my mom, I was in elementary school at the time when her period stopped. And her period stopped and she thought she was pregnant. And then she realized she wasn't pregnant, but she ended up going in to get her tubes tied. And what she didn't realize was that she was in menopause and she was really struggling mentally and emotionally. And she thought she was losing her mind. I mean, she was like, she struggled very much. And I think that's why this work is so important to me, is having witnessed how long she suffered. And that's really hard. And I would never want anyone else to suffer in that way. And I mean, she's, 75 and doing great now, but for so long, like, I just remember her being so angry and her being so like, I'm losing my mind and nobody's listening, and it really, I didn't understand it. Like, we talk about it now and she was just like, those were the worst years of my life. And her mom had nothing. She was like, I don't even know if my mom went through menopause. She was like, clearly nothing happened to her.
Well,
So
or her, she suffered in silence, which is what I
yeah,
suspect my mother may have done. Just never said
maybe.
anything. Thought
Yeah.
Lorraine's busy. She doesn't have time for this. So I'm just going to get through it myself, right? Like I am
Right.
doing, like I did with my
Yeah.
daughter. So
Yeah.
yes, so conversations like this need to come up. And I think there's one other piece to this that I find and that I remember from my own experience when I finally realized that was it. It was my last period. I'm not having any more. The loss of being able to have a child.
Mm,
It was, I remember having grief around that, that it was like, oh, no more children for me. Even though I didn't want any more children, at the
right.
same time, I did not have that possibility anymore.
Yeah.
And that, depending on how you think of yourself as a woman, that can be a
Yeah.
huge identity shift.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I,
require some grief.
yeah. I remember, I think I totally hear what you're saying. And I think, I know you're not alone. I mean, I know you're not alone. I mean, I feel like a lot of women are like, oh my God, that's like my womanhood. Like that's,
Mhm.
I personally was a little different. I was like, well, this is kind of cool. Okay, now I can be my own experiment. I've been studying this for a couple of years. Now I'm going to see like what all this looks like and how I can help people. So I had a little bit of a different mindset, but I just remember being like, what is this really about now? Um,
Yeah.
but there were some things that really shifted. I'll never forget kind of going through it and my husband looking at me. And I'm still like, look, I'm 3 years postmenopausal. And I remember my husband looking at me one day and he's like, so when does this menopause end?
I think it's for the rest of our lives,
And
honey.
I was like, oh, sweetheart. So I'm like postmenopausal forever. And I'm sorry. Like,
And the way it
and
goes.
I will say, like, I had with my youngest child, who's now 18 and about to go off to school, um, I had really bad postpartum depression. So I have been on medicine since that time. And sometimes it's need a little bit of tweaking. It had to be tweaked once, I entered menopause because things started to change again. And I know how I am. I know there is a look I get on my face and a feeling I have in my body where I feel like I have my finger in a socket. That's when I know like something's not right. Or I have this constant buzz going in my body.
Wow.
And when I have that, I know that I'm like, oh, I'm in a little bit of trouble here. And I have to go to the doctor and like get things checked out. So again, not saying that to scare anybody. That's just kind of that's my own, like that's Stephanie's like, hey, let's go,
Well, what that is you're listening to your body. You are
yeah,
tuned in enough to know. And I feel as I've gotten older, that's happened to me as well. I have become more attuned to my body,
yeah,
sometimes to my own detriment. I mean, because I become kind of narrowly focused on it. But
right.
other times it has been extremely helpful because I'm beginning to listen to my body
Yeah, we
and
have to.
and and also not, assume it's doom and gloom.
Right,
It's just a
right.
shift. It's just me transitioning. When we grow
Hmm.
older, no one says, "Oh, you're going to go through lots of changes." Like I learned, your feet,
Hmm.
your arch flattens as you get older. So when
Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
a podiatrist because I was having calluses and blisters on my feet that I couldn't figure out, he said it's because your feet have flattened and you're wearing
Mm,
shoes that are too small for you. You
yeah,
need to have a size up. I'm like, "What?" I went and bought another size up. My feet are great. So
awesome.
didn't know that. That happens when you get
Yeah,
older. More
yep,
stuff, right? Always to talk.
yeah,
Well, let me
yeah,
switch gears a little bit because there is something
yes.
that you have shared with me that I found fascinating.
Hmm.
So, Stephanie, you often say that you want to think about your health the same way you think about saving money for retirement.
Hmm.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so many of us that have jobs or have worked for somebody, we have a 401k that every paycheck you're putting a little bit away, right?
Mhm.
And we work now so that we can save a little bit each time, each paycheck, and we put it away. And then over time, that money grows. If it's in some sort of investment account, it grows and grows and grows. And then one day we retire and we have enough to live on, right? In theory, that's hopefully what
Mhm.
happens for everybody. What really hurts me to see is women working so hard and not taking care of themselves. And then when they get to the retirement age, they're spending their time at doctor's appointments. The people that I work with, my clients, the community that I work with, my goal, I feel like it is literally my purpose to help educate women as to why they should invest in their health and wellness a little bit every day. Just a little bit, so that it adds up over time. And then when you go to retire, you're not like, oh, the wheels just came off the bus and now I'm, 6 days or 5 days a week at a doctor's appointment, like dealing with something that I ignored for so long. So moving your body. A lot of us have desk jobs. We have commutes and we have a desk job. We have to move our bodies. It's what keeps us mobile. Like motion is lotion. It's what keeps us mobile and strong. Just move your body every day. And people will be like, what's the best exercise? It's the one you're going to do. Mm-hmm. I don't care what people do. I just want you to move. I want you to walk if you love walking, swim if you love swimming. I mean, personally, I would want people to do some strength training, because strength training helps reduce the risk of osteoporosis. There's plyometric work. We want to do stretching and mobility work to kind of keep things moving, because like I said, when estrogen declines, it impacts all the systems of our body. That's also the musculoskeletal system. So everything is impacted. Our muscles and ligaments change as a result of going through menopause. We lose muscle mass. Our bone density lessens because of it. So we want to work out and do weight-bearing activity, walking, running if you're a runner, strength training, just to help with that. But if you're someone who's just getting started, start easy. I don't care if you start with 5 minutes a day of walking around your block, or you start with like 10 squats at your desk, but what happens is we've become a very sedentary society. We sit in our cars for our commute. We sit at our desk. We sit on our phones. I mean, there's so many times you're just sitting around the table on your phone, doom scrolling. Put the computer down, get out, move your body, and do a little bit every day. Pay attention to what you're eating. And I'm not saying you have to, ideally it'd be great if everybody lived on whole foods and didn't eat processed foods. But I know that that's not the reality for everybody, right? It's just, I wish it was. Sadly, it is not. But aim to make a good choice at a meal. I love a burger. Just started loving burgers, to be quite honest, every now and again. But I'm going to have the salad to go with it, I'm going to just like let everybody know I have a favorite fast food place, and it's Taco Bell. I know they've been in the news lately, but anyway, like once a week, I get a bean burrito from Taco Bell. But I eat fine the rest of the week. Like I do eat my salads and my vegetables, and I have fruit with my cottage cheese for breakfast. So like I have my healthy stuff, but once a week I like go to the border and grab my bean burrito. So I'm just saying, we make choices every day. And I would just invite women to choose themselves every day for whatever amount of time you can, eating well, mm-hmm. as best you can, prioritizing movement at some point during the day for whatever you can do. And if you're just getting started, again, start small. You don't have to do a whole lifestyle overhaul, one small step at a time. If your sleep is not great, start to figure out what's going on with that. It could be shifting hormones, and you can go talk to your OBGYN about, hormone therapy that might be able to help with that. If you're not getting good sleep, are you on your phone late at night, or is there a TV in your room? Or, look at the reasons why you might not be sleeping well. Sometimes we do it to ourselves. We have our phones in our room, our TVs are on. It's maybe loud, but like figure out what it is. Maybe your temperature, maybe it's not cool enough in your room. There's a whole host of things we can do to look before we go down a path of needing, help from a professional. But look at your sleep, and then how you manage stress. If you're living in a stressful environment, or you're feeling constantly, in this fight or flight mode, it's important that you bring your stress down. And
Yep.
you can do that through breathing exercises. You can do that through yoga, through meditation. Like you could just sit and stretch your body out or go for a walk around the block. But we have to take care of all of that in some way so that when we get to those retirement years, we're not dealing with all the things we ignored for so long.
And at the same time, if you are there at retirement years now,
Mm-hmm.
this is the perfect moment to make what you're talking about is making yourself a priority.
And honestly, we should be a priority in every decade.
Yes, absolutely.
Which we
And
should. I'm
that is,
sorry.
and I think for me, what happened when I would turn 60 was I woke up and realized that there is an inevitable end here.
Right?
I am going to die, and it can be sooner
Yeah.
or it can be later. I have
Yeah.
no control ultimately over when or even how,
Right.
but I can maximize the experiences I have right now
That's
by
it.
shifting and changing the choices that I make.
Right.
And putting myself first has become
Yeah.
my mantra. It's
Yeah.
how does this whatever this choice is, how will it make me feel?
Mm-hmm.
Is it getting me to a place where I can continue to live an active and healthy and fun lifestyle? And if
Mm-hmm.
I can't say yes to those questions, then it's a no. It's a hard no.
Yeah.
But
One thing
we
that
have
I like to
struggled with
share with,
this. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, one thing that I like to share with the clients that I work out with or tell people is I'd rather you be the oldest person in the gym than the youngest person in the retirement home or assisted living facility.
Absolutely.
Like
Exactly.
let's take care of ourselves so that we can be out there. I dreamed of being like the oldest triathlete, crossing an Ironman finish line. It's not going to happen. But
Oh, you never know.
but I just thought I just like life is meant to be lived with joy and I just want people to get the most out of their life. And in order to do that, I firmly believe you just have to take care of yourself and you have to do a little bit every day.
You do. And for me, it was interesting when you said start with the little things. I literally set the timer and walked 10 minutes a day in the upstairs of my house. Every morning
Yeah,
before my day started, I got up and put on
it's
headphones,
awesome.
walked for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I
Hmm.
made it to 15. Then I got to
Yeah.
20. And then eventually I got outside. And
Yeah.
that opened a whole new world up to me for hiking
Hmm.
and for travel and
Hmm.
adventure and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So it does not have to be big. You just need to
Hmm.
start
Hmm.
and it will snowball. But
Yeah.
really, you have to look ahead and say, there is an inevitable end here. How do you
Yeah.
want to go out?
Right.
And what do you want to do
It's so
between
true.
that point and this point right now? How can you maximize and make this the biggest, the highest, the best quality of life you could possibly have? And it means
Absolutely.
putting yourself first.
Yep. It really does.
It does. And menopause is the big wanky thing that shows up in the middle of all of this that we get to deal with as well.
Yes.
Just in case you weren't, on your toes already. So
Right.
that is a part of our lives, something for us to
Yes.
never forget. And I would say I'm still experiencing the effects of menopause today at 67.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
right, it does not end.
Right.
Postmenopausal is for the rest of your life.
Right.
So let me ask you this final question as we begin to wrap up. If
Mhm.
every woman who is listening could hear one message from you
Mhm.
about living their best life, give it to us. What would it be?
Mm. I would first say honor your changing body. And I don't care what decade you're in 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, our bodies are changing. And instead of fighting it, embrace it and honor it and give thanks to the body that you have and give thanks for all the things it does for you each and every day. I would say listen to what you need. And we have to be still in order to hear those messages. I would say invite a little bit of quiet into your life every single day. And I would say connect with your inner wisdom. A lot of times we know what we need to do, but we've either been conditioned to not listen to ourselves or we're afraid of listening to ourselves. So I would just say, listen to that inner wisdom and let it guide you. And it's, honor your changing body, listening to what you need and reconnecting with that inner wisdom so that you can feel fully alive and live the greatest life. That's what I would want for every woman.
Ditto. I would as well. That was very well said. Thank you for sharing that
Oh,
with us.
thanks.
I feel
Thank
like we
you.
could talk for about 8 hours here.
I mean, I'm sad this conversation's ending.
Me too. So we're just going to have you come back and we'll continue it on. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful.
Stephanie, thank you. Thank you for reminding us today to remember that investing in our health is not about being perfect, not about being
Yeah.
a pro athlete, but it's really about creating a foundation and thinking of it like a bank account that allows us to live fully for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
For those of you listening, I would ask one question for you to consider as you reflect on this conversation and live the next 7 days of your life. What is one investment that you could make
Mm-hmm.
today in your health that your future self would thank you for? I'll
That's a
repeat
great
that.
question.
What is one investment you can make in your health this week that your
Hmm.
future self will thank you for? And it does not have to be dramatic. It could be getting to bed a little bit earlier, or taking a walk, or making that appointment with your doctor or your dentist that you've been putting off, learning
Yeah.
more about menopause, simply giving yourself permission to become a priority again. It's
Hmm.
small little intentional choices that will create momentum in your life and will lead to other small little intentional choices. And then one day you wake up and realize, wow, I really am a healthy person. Wow, I am really energetic. Wow, I am living my best life.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed today's episode, I would be grateful for you to subscribe to our podcast. Leave a review if you can. Share the conversation with a friend, a sister, a daughter, a colleague. The more we talk about these kinds of things in our lives as we're getting older, the more we can help all of us, and I do mean all of us, realize we're not
Hmm.
alone and that there are
Yeah.
things we can do to make our lives more energetic, happy, full, whole, wonderful, as they might say. If
Yeah.
you would like to learn more about Stephanie and the wonderful work that she's doing through her Change Her Community, you will find links to her website, podcast, and all her social media in the show notes. I highly encourage you to connect with her and to continue learning from the valuable resources that she shares. Thank you, everyone, for spending time with us today. And until next time, please remember every new chapter begins with one single step. And the life that you are creating for yourself tomorrow is really shaped by the choices that you make today. Thanks for listening.
Beautiful. Thank you.